And joining us now to discuss Xi Jinping's visit to Hungary, we have Jan Zielonka, Professor of European Politics from the University of Oxford. Good afternoon, sir, and welcome to TVP World.
Good afternoon.
So now Xi Jinping, after this trip to Hungary, has said that Hungary and China are embarking on a golden voyage on bilateral relations. What do you make of this statement?
Well, it is a standard statement. If you visit a country, you don't usually say we are going to cool down our relationship. This was all prepared, and it's a diplomatic language.
Right. Well, Hungary is obviously China's best friend here in Europe. They're looking to have better inroads to penetrate the European common market. Is this a coincidence that it's Hungary, tends to have better relations with Russia as well? Is that a coincidence that Hungary fills that little gap in the European Union, or is it something more?
I'm not sure whether Hungary is the best friend of China, but there are other members of the European Union who are very eager to have good relations with China too, at least in the economic sphere. But what is certain that Hungary is not the most important European state for China. China cares much more about the EU, about France, about the United Kingdom, Italy, large countries. Hungary is, as English say, pain in the neck for the European Union and tries to distance itself from common policies and get closer to the Vladimir Putin line. But at the end of the day, Hungary punches much above the weight because this is a small country which partly bankrupt, not to mention not very democratic, and it certainly represents a symbolic partner for China, but not the real one.
So now we know that the EU has recently said they are trying to not decouple but de-risk from China. And of course, we have upcoming elections to the European Parliament in June. Will this visit, if at all, impact the situation in the EU?
Elections, will be run on other issues than relations with China. But look, the most problem, the elephant in the room here is the United States. The United States has a harder line on China that the EU would welcome. But we are ally of the United States. We are very much dependent on the United States, if only because of our own defenses, but also in the effort to help Ukraine. China, at the same time, is a key player globally, not just economically, but they basically control Putin. Putin is very much on their mercy. He cannot do anything against China right now. He's dependent on their political and military support. So China has all cards in their hands. Economically, they are extremely strong. This is our first trading partner in terms of imports and third in terms of exports, and important geopolitical player. So the EU has to find a way to advance its own economic interests and security ones in this triangle between the United States and China.
Right. On his visit to France, Emmanuel Macron has said that he got Xi Jinping to agree to stop sending dual-use items to Russia that could be used in the war against Ukraine. Do you think Macron sincerely has such a commitment, or is this just a bit of political fluff? Because I don't know how he's going to be able to enforce this.
Well, we have problems to enforce it within the European Union. The problem with sanctions and dual-use export being banned, is not the new one. I remember still in with the Soviet Union, we tried the same, and yet there were always those European firms which found a way to export products which were forbidden to the Soviet Union, and I fear there are some in Europe to do the same. And if some Europeans are doing this, I can very well imagine that China will do it despite declarations. But I believe that that China is not entirely happy with the war Putin launched on Ukraine, partly because China values very much the issue of national sovereignty, and here we have a clear violations of sovereignty of another country, and partly because they fear nuclear escalations, which certainly will not be in China's interest. So they, I believe, on the one hand, try to play the Russian card in their relationship with EU and the US, but at the same time, they try to keep Putin under some kind of control.
Right. Well, Jan Zielonka, professor of European politics from the University of Oxford, thank you very much for joining us and talking to us today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.